didn't have much substance. All they were composed of was memories and heart. Atop one of Set Tor's round towers, Emily Mather pressed a diaphanous hand against the spot in the center of her chest that even now was heavy with dread. Does it ever get easier? Her voice, like the rest of her, was almost imperceptible. The watching, the waiting, the knowing. Not that I've noticed, Philippe de Clermont replied shortly. He was perched nearby, studying his own transparent fingers. Of all the things Philippe disliked about being dead, the inability to touch his wife, Isabeau, his lack of smell or taste, the fact that he had no muscles for a good sparring match, invisibility topped the list. It was a constant reminder of how inconsequential he had become. Emily's face fell, and Philippe silently cursed himself. Since she died, the witch had been his constant companion, cutting his loneliness in two. What was he thinking, barking at her as if she were a servant? Perhaps it will be easier when they don't need us anymore, Philippe said in a gentler tone. He might be the more experienced ghost, but it was Emily who understood the metaphysics of their situation. What the witch had told him went against everything Philippe believed about the afterworld. He thought the living saw the dead because they needed something from them. Assistance, forgiveness, retribution. Emily insisted these were nothing more than human myths, and it was only when the living moved on and let go that the dead could appear to them. This information made Isabeau's failure to notice him somewhat easier to bear, but not much. I can't wait to see Em's reaction. She's going to be so surprised. Diana's warm alto floated up to the battlements. Diana and Matthew, Emily and Philippe said in unison, peering down to the cobbled courtyard that surrounded the chateau. There, Philippe said, pointing at the drive. Even dead, he had vampire sight that was sharper than any human's. He was also still handsomer than any man had a right to be. With his broad shoulders and devilish grin, he turned the latter on Emily, who couldn't help grinning back. They're a fine couple, are they not? Look how much my son has changed. Vampires weren't supposed to be altered by the passing of time, and therefore Emily expected to see the same black hair, so dark it glinted blue, the same mutable gray-green eyes, cool and remote as a winter sea, the same pale skin and wide mouth. There were a few subtle differences, though, as Philippe suggested. Matthew's hair was shorter, and he had a beard that made him look even more dangerous, like a pirate. She gasped. Is Matthew bigger? He is. I fattened him up when he and Diana were here in 1590. Books were making him soft. Matthew needed to fight more and read less. Philippe had always contended there was such a thing as too much education. Matthew was living proof of it. Diana looks different too, more like her mother with that long coppery hair, Em said, acknowledging the most obvious change in her niece. Diana stumbled on a cobblestone, and Matthew's hand shot out to steady her. Once, Emily had seen Matthew's incessant hovering as a sign of vampire overprotectiveness. Now, with the perspicacity of a ghost, she realized that this tendency stemmed from his preternatural awareness of every change in Diana's expression, every shift of mood, every sign of fatigue or hunger. Today, however, Matthew's concern seemed even more focused and acute. It's not just Diana's hair that's changed. Philippe's face had a look of wonder. Diana is with child, Matthew's child. Emily examined her niece more carefully. Philippe was right, in part. You mean with children, she said. Diana is having twins. Twins, Philippe said in an odd voice. He looked away, distracted by the appearance of his wife. Look, here are Isabeau and Sarah with Sophie and Margaret. What will happen now, Philippe? Emily asked, her heart growing heavier with anticipation. Endings, beginnings, Philippe said vaguely. Change. Diana has never liked change, Emily said. That is because Diana is afraid of what she must become, Philippe replied.